Farm for Profit Podcast. Take a listen, have a blast. Farm for Profit Podcast. Learn about farming while having a laugh. Farm for Profit Podcast.
And listeners, welcome back to the Farm for Profit Podcast. That means it's a Farm for Fun episode. Corey and Tanner here to interview one of Dave's guests on this Farm for Fun episode.
Yeah, this is weird. Dave's not here.
He
lined up
sets up the interview.
one of the best guests and in person.
Yes, but we will reap the spoils. We will take advantage of this opportunity. Listeners, today's episode is brought to you by Pattern Ag, predicting pest and pathogen risks in your field. Don't gamble with your yields. Go to www.pattern.ag today.
Yeah.
I love in-studio guests.
This is the middle of the summer. It's been a great year so far.
Mm-hmm.
In-studio guests is always good.
Absolutely. Listeners, we thank you for all the contributions you've given us. Remember to go to YouTube, hit subscribe. That's also where you're going to find this guest today, so make sure you subscribe to their channel. But continue to leave your listener reviews. And I strung 3 of them together today, Corey, from the same person. But let's get to our ad first before we jump into this review. So here we go. This is
3 reviews from one person.
From James M.
At VDub907
Ooh,
on
VDub.
Twitter.
That's a Volkswagen, right?
Probably. So number 1, first one. Your intro song is too long, in my honest opinion.
You wrote that.
I did.
You made it too long.
I did. And I have thought that myself,
Yeah.
listening after you've listened to it several times.
You're going to have to write a new one then.
Tyler Ishton and the High Bank boys are going to have to
Re-record.
Re-record. Mm-hmm. Number 2, holy shit. Break up the ads, guys. Skip.
It said more like 7. There was more to that one. It was like 7 minutes until they actually got to the content.
I get this, but here is the thing. Putting the ads together, it's good for our advertisers, and it's good for you because you can use that skip button and just start where you want to.
Yeah. And then once you're into the content, we're going to roll with the content. Except for today. Just because of him, I'm going to throw it in the middle.
Good.
Just for it.
And number 3, I do enjoy the podcast, just so we are clear. So thanks for clearing
Jim.
that up.
Thanks. I'm going to call him Jim. Even though he's James M., I'm going to call him Jim. But yes, listeners, we see everything. We appreciate that you provide this feedback. Everything does matter. So continue to share that with us. Remember, there is going to be a sneaky second ad in this episode somewhere.
Play the intro song one more time and do another ad.
It's going to double up the doubling up. So to keep Jim happy, we're going to bounce into this episode a little bit earlier. Keep this intro nice and short, and a new song today.
Keep up on this. Today on the Farm for Fun show, we head just down the road to a local social media superstar. This man is a fellow ISU grad. That's Iowa State University for you Nebraska people. Has a knack for taking what seems to be forgotten junk and vehicles left in the weeds or in the junkyard and making them run again, all while documenting the progress. The followers speak for themselves while he boasts over 16,000 followers on Facebook, 85,000 on Instagram, 116,000 on TikTok, and over what? 1 million?
Wow.
On YouTube. Please welcome from Ames, Iowa, Mr. Kevin Brown, a.k.a. Junkyard Diggs.
Yeah.
What's up, buddy?
Cheers.
How's it going?
And we are drinking some Busch Lights.
Yes.
Of course.
The
As
official
is
Bud.
tradition.
Official
This
beer
is Dave's
podcast.
guy, and he's having fun with us. Sorry, Dave.
Are we really sorry for Dave?
No.
Nah, he's
Screw you,
fine.
Dave. You're on a month-long vacation.
He's fine.
He is fine. So Junkyard Diggs. Man, I remember Dave telling us about you. It was, probably a year or two ago?
Yep.
He sold you a property. Wasn't that what it was?
And sold our old one, so it was probably not good words. I met this asshole.
No, he was that. I think that was like the turning point of Dave's life. He's like, you can actually make money online.
Right.
Yeah, you can.
He's like, I just sold this guy. He just got out of college a house.
And we had interviewed the brothers, the squad, about making their farming simulator videos on YouTube.
Also Ames people.
Yep. Yeah.
There's to totally sidetrack there's a huge number of people from Ames and the immediate vicinity that are influencers. It's from Iowa especially.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. There's another very sizable podcast based out of Ames.
What's that?
What? Which podcast?
Kibbe and Friends show. It used to be Kibbe and Finnegan, Mike Finnegan from Motor Trend.
Okay.
Oh,
It was
really?
with Rob Kibbe. They do Dukes of Hazzard videos, or they break down Dukes of Hazzard episodes. Finnegan's not part of it anymore, but Rob Kibbe still lives and works in Ames and runs a podcast.
That is so cool.
So why do you think Ames is such a hot box for that?
College probably is part of it, but it's not a ton of them are young people. So we've got, there's like 7 recently. The last time I counted, it's Rob, me, my fiance, Luke, who got me started into it. Cold the Corn Star is not far from here.
Yeah, Marshalltown.
The guys that do the ones you just talked
squad,
about, the squad. I've got a buddy who is a smaller channel from the area, but he does car stuff, Skunk River Restorations.
Oh, yeah.
Or This Week with Cars on YouTube.
Yeah.
And
The Farm for Profit podcast.
Yeah, add us to that
you
list.
guys. Absolutely. And then there's a couple more that I can't remember off the top of my head. They just keep popping
cool.
up.
That is so cool.
Wow. All right. So enough about that.
Yes, back on the track.
We on the fun shows we bring someone in and we drink beer. We want to learn about you. So who is Junkyard Digs?
Subscribe then. You just got to watch.
Just watch it. Sorry, we're only going to drink
Now
beer.
we're going behind the scenes of Junkyard Digs and seeing how you got to where you are and where you came from and all that.
It's going to be a dig. And it's a lot of it's going to be kind of clueless wandering.
That's
that's
fine.
brought me to this point.
That's
but
fine.
Sweet.
Yeah, it is, like you mentioned earlier, it is something, the online social media presence is something you can do to make money. No one can tell you how to do it. No one can give you honestly good advice because it's constantly changing and it's a lot of work and a lot of times it doesn't work out. Right. So it's hard, but it can work.
Right. So where'd you grow up?
I grew up in northern Iowa,
Okay.
a little town called Belmont, town of about probably now about 2,200. Right on Highway 69, about an hour north of here, right on this road.
Yep.
And I grew up my mom was a landscaper, and she still owns and runs her own business in the area. And Dad was a maintenance man at Eaton, which is now closed and done as of a couple years ago. But I grew up with no money at all.
Yeah.
My whole life, one of our walls in our house had no drywall on it or anything because it was actively falling out, and we were trying to pull it back whenever we could, and never had the time to put new drywall in it or anything. And eventually, the house did fall down while we were still living in it, but that's a different story. But grew up with no money, so I learned to be very resourceful and use what I could. And I was always working with my hands. My dad was a bodyman for 30 years, so I learned a little bit of that. More importantly, I wanted nothing to do with body work, and I would rather work on the mechanic aspects of cars.
Right.
So somewhere around my 10th birthday, they put an ad in the newspaper asking for old lawnmowers. Everyone in the area was like, yep, I got an old lawnmower in the back, and we wound up with a trailer full of lawnmowers. So I spent that whole summer
Your
working.
parents put an ad in the paper for you to go pick up junk.
Wanted lawnmowers for youth project because they were free.
Absolutely.
And you can afford free shit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
So I spent summers in this shed with like a hammer and a pair of pliers and 2 wrenches I had found in some car or in a mulch pile, working on these mowers. And I got a couple of them to run and tried to build go-karts out of them and stuff. And
Yeah, didn't even leave them as mowers.
No.
Turned them into something else.
yeah, we had one that might have mowed the lawn, or Mom was like, hey, I need a push mower to do this little piece of grass. You got something? And I'd be like, maybe. Give me an hour.
Yeah.
I can see what I can find. So that was where I learned to be very resourceful with no tools, no money, nothing. And that carried over. And I loved making stuff that had sat for years. Stuff people threw out, making it run again. I loved that. And around that time, YouTube became a thing. And there was these videos of guys doing what they called back then old or cold starts. Old start, cold start.
Yep.
Something that sat in the woods, tractor, sat in the woods for 30 years, and they get something from the 50s running. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
I still think it's the
It's
coolest
still
stuff.
great.
I still go watch those.
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't making any money. They were doing it for fun.
Yep.
Putting videos out. And they would always do like part 1, part 2, just get to fire off, and then they'd never come back because there was no incentive. They wouldn't come back for part 3.
Yep.
fast forward. I'm giving you the whole backstory here. Fast forward a few years, I've been through the Army at this point to help pay for college because my parents always said, we're going to pay for college, and I knew they couldn't.
Yep.
It's like, all right, well, I got cousins and family in the Army. This seems to in Air Force and everything. Yep. So I went to be a helicopter mechanic in the Army, learned more technical, hands-on, finite, like working in a dentist office on helicopters there, which was the complete opposite of having a hammer in a shed.
Yeah.
So that was a good experience there. And then I came back, and in college, one day, back when Roadkill was on YouTube, back in the day, not yet, I saw a video that someone had posted of one of those old Cold Starts. And I was like, oh, wow, I haven't seen this one before. And I haven't seen one of these in years. I watched it, and it was great. I was like, oh, well, I know how this movie works. I've seen this before. Yeah. You're going to click on it. It's going to say 7 years ago, and there will not be another one. And I clicked, and it said a week ago it was posted. And I went, oh, this is back. Someone did it again. So I watched, as they came out, I watched his little bits and pieces.
Right.
Like, this is awesome. I haven't seen this in years. Got me all fired up because I still had no money, no time. And just fixing whatever junk I could find lying around, four-wheelers, motorcycles at this point, stuff like that. But I watched this series come out, and then it ended, and they got the truck to drive around the woods. And I was like, man, I want to see more. What else does he have on his channel? And I clicked on it, and in one of the videos, I heard 94.9, the KLMJ or whatever it is around here.
KGGO.
Yes. I heard their sounder in the back of a video, and I went, this guy is from my area. Yeah. So I started commenting, and he commented back, and we went back and forth, and he sent me a Facebook request. Turns out he was in his last semester at Iowa State for industrial technology at ISU, and we kind of got to know each other a little bit, and later on I sold him an engine that I had laying around from something I'd wrecked years ago, and it kicked it off from there, and that is how I met Thunderhead 289, who would later convince me, hey, you like car stuff and have no money. And I was running an Instagram page at the time, which was Junkyard Digs. I would go to junkyards, take pictures of cars, and post them on Instagram because 2016, 15, that was popular. He's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you have the content. Go find one of those, make it run, and make a video about it, and you'll get money. And I was like, I like money. He's like, I'd pay for college with this. Like, I have no money. I was like, this is great. So that's how Luke, my buddy Thunderhead29, got me into YouTube. So that's a condensed version of like 8 years right there, the last section being a few months.
Well, I love that because that's not where I thought it was going to come from.
No.
I didn't realize there was a somebody.
I wandered into it. It wasn't planned. It's like, yeah, I could do this. I can make videos. So I filmed for that whole summer. Put a few videos out trying to figure out what our thing was. Nothing was catching. Nothing was doing good. And tried stuff with music. Tried stuff without music. Tried more rated R stuff, like a bunch of swearing, like blah, blah, blah. And none of that was working, so that's all off YouTube. Yeah. But we played around for a bit, and then right before I deployed in 2017, I'd filmed that summer, getting a few cars running. And then right before I deployed, we found a truck actually 5 miles from here in Slater.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
There was a blue 65, oh, wow, it's been a long time, 65 F-250 that was sitting on an abandoned farm just north of Slater. And I went, you know what, that's actually not that bad of a looking truck. It's got metal on it still. It's not all rusted out. Yeah. Got a hold of the owner. He said, yeah, you can have it for scrap price. So I scraped $300 together and bought this truck, and we filmed it, and like 2 days later after we finished, I went down to Texas to go to Kuwait and Iraq. And while in Texas, I put all these videos together and started putting them out, and they took off. They were on Jalopnik. There was articles about them.
Wow.
Next thing I knew, we had 20,000 subscribers at the end of that series, and I had actually made a couple grand. And I like paid off whatever debts I might have had from trying to build the truck prior. And like, I'm in the green right now. And for the next 13 months, I'm going to be sitting on my ass on deployment.
Oh, yeah. You just now get momentum.
Yep. But thankfully, I had enough content backlogged for one video a month for 12 months. And I had 11 videos, and one of them was, it did so well, we hit 100,000 subscribers while I was still deployed that same year.
Wow.
So in about 7 months, we got to 100,000 subs. And I made one video of me in Iraq, just filmed it out because I was on night shift, filmed it out on the little patio of me reading the dumb comments that we've got over the last 100,000 subs. But so in that year, I came back. By the time I was home, we had, I think, 150,000 subs.
Whoa.
And life was completely different.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's like now there's a little money to play with to make more videos
Yep.
and do these car things, and still just fumbling around trying to figure out what I'm doing. But that year pause had given me time to, the videos I put out were all the same
Right.
style, and that had built our brand. So I didn't actually, it's probably good for me, because I think I would have tried to chase views and probably ruined it otherwise. But this set in stone, it's
Gave
like
you some strategy.
Bingo.
Gave you a way to put together like you said, a brand.
Yep, it was our method, our brand was established. It's like, this is how our videos are. They're informative and funny, and something runs and dries. So I got back and was like, okay, well, now I guess I'm a YouTuber, and I get to figure this out for the next 3 years that I'm in college.
Oh, because you were still in school.
Oh yeah, I was 21 at the time, 22, I think. And I had done about I'd done 3 semesters and missed 5 at that point because of the Army.
Yep.
So then school took over full time. And we do about a video a month still, maybe 2. And it was just enough to kind of be a background income throughout school. So,
Yep.
and that was good. And I'm going to stop there because there's more to the story, but I see the notes in front of you guys.
Well, no.
The notes don't mean
If I
anything.
throw it all out right now, it'll be an 8-minute
This
episode.
is just
No.
Tanner has to do this.
We know that sometimes guests come in here and they don't know their own story, and you have to pry the story out of them. So no, we don't have to follow any of this. I'm intrigued. So
That's chapter 1 to 1.5 essentially.
good.
So there's questions to be had in there, and then we'll get
Yeah.
into
So
chapter 2.
when you are at Iowa State, you got your degree. You finished it up.
Correct. I did finish my degree. I graduated in 2021, the spring of.
In what?
Industrial technology. So actually the same thing Luke had. I had initially gone for electrical engineering because I was really good with low voltage DC and cars.
Yep.
I was the one people would have fix their stuff, and I quickly realized I was neither brilliant nor Asian. So that wasn't going to work out because it was actually Iowa State's electrical engineering was just computer engineering. And then I switched to mechanical engineering. I was like, okay, well, I can handle this one. Still not brilliant, as it turns out, with figuring out escape velocities of the Earth and stuff that does not matter at all.
Right.
Because the tour they take you on at Iowa State for mechanical engineering is not the mechanical engineering tour.
That you take.
You actually go through SUCUP, the building for industrial technology. And we'd see the ME groups come in all the time, and then they'd leave. And they'd be like, yep, you get to rebuild diesel engines and work on this hydraulics lab. No, you don't. You will never step a foot in this building again.
So how do you get into that building?
So that one, I was sitting, after deployment, I came back, still struggling through Calc 2. I was like, I got this. I got a whole year to psych myself up. I did Physics 2 online, which was, fake. And I came back, I'm like, I'm going to do this. And I sat for about 8 minutes in that class and went, I don't even know what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. After a year of just using my brain zero, besides making YouTube videos, and then trying to come back into Calc 2 at Iowa State, which is like the weed out program. Yeah. It's like, this isn't going to work. But I had met Luke and befriended him for a year and a half now at this point, or 2 years. And he said, you need to leave that room and go to Tamara's office in SUCUP. Showed me where it was, told me where it was. And I stood up, left in the middle of that class, and went and changed degrees. And I knew as soon as I walked in and everyone had ratty baseball caps on, there were 6 pairs of pliers in the front row, and everyone had, and the other half had jeans and cowboy boots. I went, oh,
Yeah.
this is where I was supposed to be all along, which it's applied engineering, but they refuse to call it that because Iowa State's a bunch of whatevers.
Sure.
So, but they call industrial technology there. And that was what I graduated in, which was a very, very good hands-on course. Manufacturing engineering, essentially.
Yeah, but I like that. Because there's a lot to be said about not being afraid to change your path.
Yep.
But then also...
And a lot to be said for a large conglomerate company that makes a lot of money lying to all of their recruits and saying, hey, this is what you're going to do. But But that program does actually exist. They're just taking it to the wrong building. So that's my message to spread to the youth is if you go to a college, try to find the applied engineering. If you're someone who, because I asked them, like, do you like to work with your hands? Oh, yeah, I like to work. Do you actually, let me see your fingernails right now. Are they black?
Right.
Are they black? Okay, that building.
Yeah.
Go over there.
Interesting.
Mine are kind of clean.
Yeah, well,
Mine are too.
You're a banker.
I was running a skid loader all day today.
Were you out of Boone for the Army?
No, I was actually out of Davenport, but
Davenport, okay.
I deployed with that
Okay.
godforsaken unit.
My grandpa was a helicopter mechanic.
Was he?
For
Blackhawks?
Yeah.
I would have been I deployed with his unit then.
Yeah.
248th.
Yep. So.
And they have now taken over what used to be the 211th, which is what I was in. So it's actually the same.
Wow, they fly over our farm all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So it's crazy. So that's chapter 1.5 or 1.
Yeah. I want to go clear back to when he said he was up from Belmont, right on Highway 69.
Yep.
And I just realized that for 3 years, we've missed the opportunity to call this Studio 69.
Nice.
Hey, it wasn't influential to my town at all either. So
69 studios.
We've recorded in this
Studio
location.
69. It's like that right there is 69.
It's right there.
It's about, I could throw that, not even the full one, I could throw the
You
empty
could probably
beer
throw
can.
the empty and hit it.
Yeah. It's about
Man,
18
how did we
feet
miss
away.
that?
Yeah, the new studio isn't going to have any cool names like that.
No.
Well, maybe there's your chance. It's in honor of the old one.
Yeah.
That's right. It's in honor of. I
It
love
does.
this.
It does have a black leather couch in it.
That's right. Yes.
If
But
that rings. a
what
bell.
did you guys want me to come over for? Again? As much beer as I could drink?
That's right.
Huh.
Keep drinking?
I don't know.
Get you lubed up. Okay, so we've graduated now.
Yes.
We were making 12 videos a year.
Actually, we need to back up a little bit to like chapter 1.75.
All right, let's start chapter 2.
So, yes. Where I left off with videos are making background money.
Yep.
We've now rented a little shop up on Friel Drive in Ames by the old
Cool.
Junkyards.
Yeah.
And we're doing little stuff there. And it's enough to pay for the shop. It's enough to have some toy. The videos will pay for, I could justify buying a $1,000 car for a video. It's like the video will pay for it. I might not come out in the green, but I can have this car.
Right.
The spring of, I believe, 19, there were, and you guys, if you've been through Ames, you've probably seen them. As you're heading down Lincoln Way, you're past Duff, and you're heading towards the industrial area of Ames, out towards the power sports and all that. On the north side, right across from the Rico's Taco Truck,
Yep.
there was 2 tow trucks in the grass.
Habs.
Habs tow trucks.
Yes.
Yep. Right beside that.
Okay.
I don't remember.
I know where you're at. Yeah.
Yes, it was literally like 100 feet from that. But off in the grass, there was 2, and I don't remember the name on the side of them at this time. But they were sitting there for a long time, 2 diesel tow trucks. And then at the time, I did my internship with OAM. That's the other brand that's pretty notable, and Quick Performance. They're a nationwide brand based in Ames, right next to each other-ish. But I had done an internship with OAM where I ran their social media for a bit, and they signed the papers to Iowa State saying that I did a mechanical engineering internship. It was like a month.
Yep.
But across from that place where I had worked for a bit to help them try to start a second YouTube channel, or a YouTube channel for themselves that never worked out because they were all too busy. No, can't blame them there. They, across the road from them was an old Dodge, like a 77 Dodge truck with a boat attached to it. I've been sitting there for years. I'm like, man, you know what we should do? We should do a revival on that truck for a video. And then revive the boat for another video. And then, because usually we drive something at the end. It's like, we should take that boat and put it in a lake. Which, I am all for well, no, maybe edit that a little. I will, if the circumstance requires it, drive something a few hundred feet without insurance or without registration, usually abusing that 31 days that Iowa gives you to title a car. I will not play with the DNR.
Yeah.
They will take everything you love and know.
Yeah.
Yep.
They have jurisdiction over all.
And they own all the water.
Yeah.
Regardless. But I had went to Iowa State Ready Mix right down the road.
Yep.
And they have that old quarry where they lost a whole excavator in, so it's pretty deep. And we had talked about, and I got permission. I kind of bullshit with the guy for a bit. He's like, look, there's no one here on Sundays.
Right.
So we had permission to dump this boat into that lake and kind of putz around if we can get it to work.
Sure.
And I thought, if this goes bad, we're screwed. So I need a backup plan. And I'd already talked to the guy with the tow trucks. And I was like, it's like, I'm going to drop a few grand on this whole operation, like $3,000 on this whole thing, which was our biggest to that point pretty much. Like, but I think this will pay off. So we bought the tow trucks in case the boat and truck got stuck. We could pull them out with at least one of maybe the 2 working tow trucks.
So you now have 2 tow trucks, a pickup, and a boat.
Yes.
That don't run right now.
None of them. They've all been sitting for like 15 years. So we ended up doing the tow trucks first, and then the boat was way later, and the boat never worked out. We never did put it in the water because I was too scared to mess with the DNR, and it was kind of junk anyway. But the tow trucks themselves, the videos.
There's more than just a motor to a boat.
Yes.
Yes.
The videos did really well and kicked us into what I will call Chapter 2, or in this case, the 2nd or 3rd year. Suddenly, we were making pretty good money in a month. And
So
I'm like,
what flipped it?
I don't know. I do not know.
YouTube algorithms change.
The algorithms.
Good
Something.
content.
I've heard the words Google preferred thrown around. As far as I'm aware, those don't exist.
Right.
But we put a video out, and then we put another video out, and we put another one out week to week to week. Like, I stayed up till 3 a.m. for weeks, still doing college work in, like, my last 2 years. Did a video a week for 3 weeks, and suddenly they were getting 600,000 views in a month instead of 150.
Sure.
And I was looking at the numbers like, that's an anomaly. There's no way that keeps up. Mm-hmm. But that would rival a salary from my degree and be a lot more fun and a lot more free.
Sure.
So come to find out, I just tripled down on everything and just burned myself at both ends as hard as I could and did a video a week for a year, forever since then, essentially as a video a week.
That's the schedule you're on now. It's a video a week. How long are the videos?
So we also used to do shorter videos.
Okay.
And around that time, my fiance, Junkyard Mook, put one out that was like 40 minutes. And I was like, that's not going to work. And she did, and it did great. It like blew up, got 1 million views. I'm like, oh, I guess because we had the algorithms figured out. Suddenly they changed, couldn't get views on anything anymore. Started putting out 45-minute videos. They started doing really good. Like, okay, YouTube loves long videos. So we did that. And it's changed how we do everything to that's kind of what we're stuck doing now. That's just our architecture is we buy a car, and by Friday it needs to be, by Wednesday it needs to be running and done, and then Friday the video's out. So it's a 40.
You're not kidding. You're doing
this. Yeah.
It's not like you're just putting a video out
Nope.
a week.
I'm not the guy out
vehicle.
there. Yes. It's a car a week.
So do you own 52?
I don't even know. It's got to be in the 50s.
How do you find the cars that you want to do?
Facebook Marketplace, word of mouth, just driving around once in a while. And sometimes it's not always cars, go-kart, four-wheeler.
And it doesn't matter like whether it's a Chevy or a Ford or whatever. You
there's some that people like prefer. Some brand, like a Chevy seems to do a little better than a Ford. And sometimes Mopars do great. Sometimes no one cares at all. AMC is an oddball. If it's an Eagle or a Gremlin, they do great. But if it's not, like if it's a Concorde, no one recognizes that. No one cares.
So
but there are Lemons cars. So they love them.
What if you can't get it running? That's the part of the video? Sorry, this one didn't work.
There's been a couple, but usually we get them running.
And the goal is just to drive it for a little bit.
It runs like shit. It runs.
Right.
Yeah. Sometimes it's drive a little bit. Sometimes it's drive at 3,000 miles. It depends.
Yeah, I saw the station wagon that
you
brought out of California.
Oh, man. That was an adventure. So that one wasn't so much. It did run, but I drove it racing a snowstorm home with no reverse, no oil pressure, no heat, no power steering. Through L.A. for a week to help Donut Media build a car. And then drove it all the way home to Iowa racing a snowstorm. So it was like 2,300 miles. I had a camp stove next to me just on full so that I could live, and blankets so I could live. It was 4 degrees. I went through, it leaked oil really bad too. I went through 36 quarts of oil.
I'm just thinking of all the places that you've got to park that you can't use reverse. Let alone, like you just
It's
said,
not
the
as
amount
bad
of
as you
oil.
think. If you get smart about it, either park uphill or park, like, if you come up to a hotel, you just park on a curb.
Yeah.
Or have a lot of friends wherever you park.
Push it back.
I don't think I had Donut. We'd have to pull into their compound, and I'd have 3 of their employees push me out. But other than that, I never had to get out and push that car until I got home. And then I was like, I'm going to drive it one more time. And I drove to the shop and parked it in front of the door, went downhill to the shop door, and then went in and edited and came out at like, midnight. And I was like, oh, shit.
Yes.
Had to push this huge Ford wagon uphill. But so to back up, the tow truck video started doing good. Started making money, and it held. I'm like, okay, this went from a side project to a little bit of a life-changing dilemma right now. It did well. We bought a house, a cheap little, like, 1,000 square foot house just outside of Ames because it was on a great deal at the time. Mm-hmm. And took all my money left over from the Army, did that, moved into there. And then about that, the tow trucks must have been 2018. No, it was, I don't know. Look it up, I guess.
Yeah.
There's been so many videos. We did a limo once upon a time, and it was in Marshalltown, and it was on Facebook for $3,500. I was like, that's so much to pay for something stupid.
Yeah.
Sure.
But there's so many skits and opportunities we could do with this dumb thing. To own a 35.5-foot limo with tandem axles, 2 bars, 2 TVs, a phone communication system, a subwoofer, 3 couch bench things, and a queen bed with mirrors.
Oh,
A queen
Right.
bed?
Oh, yeah, it's like ultra limousine from
something
California.
Something you need to fix up on Highway 69.
Yes, exactly. And then we were like, let's do it. We drove it home, and that blew up. Got 1 million views. And then we hit 3rd gear. It's like, okay, now we're making like reasonably good money doing this. And granted, our costs, our expenses are very high because we're buying cars every week to do this. So the ROI is, it could be better. But it is absolutely enough at this point that I'm like, this makes more than what I would do as an engineer. So it came to that decision point in chapter 2.5 into chapter 3 that it's like, I need to finish. School is in my way now. Mm-hmm. But I still finished it because I don't think this will last forever. There will be a day it stops.
Sure.
Something changes. We go to war. The internet goes away.
Yep.
YouTube, the EPA steps in. There's no more car stuff. I don't know. So, but there will be a point where I have to rely on my degree. So I still finished my degree at Iowa State and then graduated in 2021. And since then, it's just been a mad dash making as many weird car videos as I can to bring us to this point.
So what do you do with the cars
Hold
once
on.
you get done with them?
Hold on. Before we jump into that,
They're in my yard.
yeah, it's fair. That's a good point. I was going to say we need to say thank you to Busch Light for
Oh, yes.
being the official beer of the podcast.
Right.
We're all drinking here some Blue Yummies. And we talked about the peach again before we recorded. It's been out for quite a while now.
The bleaches.
The bleach.
Bleach?
Yes. And
Had a couple peaches on the Upper Iowa River last weekend.
Yeah.
It was a good change of pace.
The Blapples and the bleaches. That's what you said.
Yep. The Blapple. I didn't mind I had a buddy that loved the Blapples. I'm not a big peach fan at all, but they're not as bad as I thought they would be.
I like the apples better because I liked making my caramel apple drinks.
Oh, yeah.
Take my
Oh,
BB
yes.
caramel.
I never
put that
thought
in
of
with the
that.
apple.
Yes.
Yes.
God, what could you mix in
The
bleach?
true alcoholics.
Well, we thought about that. Right. You can put vodka in it, but that's just boring.
Yeah, it's got to be something different.
Yeah.
Triple sec? I don't know.
There you go.
I like that. Actually, I've been, known to pour a beer into a margarita mix. I wonder what a bleach would be
There's DOT.
Like
in a margarita mix.
Corona Rita, but with a
Yeah.
I need to workshop the name.
Uh-huh.
A Bolita? I don't know.
Okay, now let's get back to it. I don't even think we need to play a game today. Maybe we'll play a game at the end.
Yeah.
But yes, what do you do? Do you sell the cars?
So the problem that we have, like I mentioned earlier, it's week for week, car for car. There are a few cars we'll get 2, 3, 4 episodes out of, but usually after 3, no one gives a shit.
Right.
They're gone. You get 1, 2, 3. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I don't care anymore. That's just the way YouTube and everything works. The problem with that is usually I get a car, I do a video, I'm like, okay, I got it running, I got to move around the yard a little bit, finish our video, set it off the side. I'll finish it later. Later is a very broad term. It's generally easier to find something new the next week than it is to, because at that point it's already Friday. And if I want to finish it, I either had to have ordered the parts I didn't know I needed on Monday from the last week for them to be in there, for them to be there in time for the next week. And I only have Saturday, Sunday, and those aren't shipping days.
Right.
So come next Monday, I either have to find something local, which is always a rush, or order them and put the parts in the vehicle and wait a couple weeks until that time comes out. And by then, I've got 2 or 3 vehicles that have hopped in line in front of that, and they get thrown out in the woods. So generally, some of them will finish and sell. Those are the ones I like because they go away.
That's fair.
But the ones we pay a couple $100 for, it's like, this is still only worth a couple $100, and I could do something else for a video later and make more than a couple $100 off of it.
Right.
So I'll put it out back.
Yeah, because there'll be a day that it doesn't run again.
Yep. Oh, yeah,
and
it's
you need
like
to
job
make it run
security.
again. Yeah.
I have my own vehicles that have been sitting for 4 years at this point. I'm like, oh, yeah, will it run for the first time in 4 years? I don't know. Let's find out.
Well,
That's a lot of
if you're in a
batteries to
pinch,
own.
Oh, my God. Well, it's actually like 4 batteries that just keep moving.
Rotating.
Yeah. Disappearing.
but it is that's insurance. It's like us having somebody in town here that we have no problem interviewing all the time.
Right.
Yep.
If Kevin didn't show up today, we just call up Billy Bob.
Yeah. Do
You
you
have
have
some
to
crazy
have?
story every week.
Yeah.
So do you have to have a dealer's license? If
Oh,
you
I
s-
don't sell them. They just sit out back.
Oh, that's okay.
At least no one. They never were titled in my name.
Okay.
They didn't run when he bought them.
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of them don't have titles, so just goodbye.
Yes. You're buying this with no title.
You
Yep.
talked about batteries. I'm thinking tires.
Ah, they hold there long enough.
That's well, when you mentioned that it only has to run for a little
Yep.
while.
Or anytime I come across a set of 15s for $50, I'm like, well, put those, because next to the pile of cars, there's a shed full of random parts I get on sale or cheap that are sitting around. Like, I might not ever use that,
Sure.
but if I need it, man, I'm going to be glad man, I'm going to be happy I had it.
Yeah.
It has the same mentality of my grandpa or dad, I swear, because digging
Yeah.
through all, what are we even going to do with this at the time you need it?
Yep, it's every time you throw it away, you need it the next week.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I've done that. I
can't-
will never need this HEI distributor that's half broken, throws it away. Shit, I needed that spring, and they just took the trash
Yeah.
That's what it would be. It'd be right after you threw it away.
Oh, yeah.
every time.
So you said fiance,
Yes,
correct?
correct.
And she's got her own channel.
She does, yes.
Okay.
So she,
Is she doing the same content you're doing, just on her own channel?
yes, at lower volume and effort with way greater success. Being female, she's a girl out there wrenching on cars genuinely on her own, and
Right.
people eat it up. They love, and she's hilarious. She's got her own little quirks and stuff she does. She's a goofball, and people love it. So
Well, we might have to do a part 2
Yeah.
Yeah.
later this summer and bring her in.
she might be down for that.
But that's kind of neat. How did the two of you meet?
Through cars years ago, actually, in probably high school. We had a mutual friend.
So you're high school sweethearts.
No, she's from like Minneapolis.
Oh.
She's from the Twin Cities. But I had known her, and we just kind of like talked once in a while when they're like, hey, look at this car. Well, that's cool. Look at this. 6 months. Hey, look at this. And then when I deployed, I'd started talking to her more and came back, and we started dating. And last fall, I had proposed finally. So we did a car. We pulled out of Texas. The one we actually just drove 3,000 miles last week, which you can check out on her channel on Junkyard Mook on YouTube. But I had brought it back, and it was planned that I was going to give it to her. But what she didn't know was that I had put a ring on the key ring, so that when we got out of the car, I was like, let me get my camera bag here. And I snuck a hose clamp with some Hobby Lobby jewels glued to it onto the key ring. And then we did the whole, like, hey, here's your card. It's coming, and I'm giving it to you. And she's like, oh, yeah, what the hell's this? And then stared at it for a second, and then looked, and I was on one knee, and it, like, kind of dawned on her.
Sure.
Yep. And I had the screwdriver in my pocket, so we could tighten the hose clamp to be the right size. So I didn't know what size fingers she had. We had never had time for that.
Yeah, and who would
I
pre-size
didn't
a
know
hose
what-
clamp anyway?
Yeah, and I didn't know what she wanted for a ring. I was like, I'm not going to pick that out. I'm going to take you to get the ring that you want. But I'll give you a $3 hose clamp with Hobby Lobby jewels.
Nice.
She loved it.
That's awesome.
That is funny. How did you know what ring to pick out for your wife?
We had talked about like other people's, like, oh, do you like this or do you like that? Do you like the princess cut or
Right.
whatever? And I knew she liked that, and I knew she didn't like gold. She wanted white gold or whatever. And then I just kind of
Guessed.
made the decision on that. I mean, I went to the jeweler. We were living in Webster City at the time, so
Okay.
just south of you.
Yep.
And I went to Gilbert Jewelers there, and they were awesome, and kind of told them everything I was looking for. And I'll tell you what, the process of diamond grading,
It's crazy.
it's nuts.
It's
isn't
a
it?
world I knew nothing about.
I
They're
got
like, well,
way
here's the
into
3
it.
tiers with the levels and all.
I got way into it. You start looking at colors and diamond and like the little marks and cloudiness and all that. It's pretty cool.
Looking back on it, I kind of wished I'd have gotten her a fake one.
Yeah.
Fake or lab grown?
The lab,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Fake.
They told her that, and like, well, we got this one, and then we got that one, and we looked at the prices, and this is one of the reasons I married her. And she went, "Oh yeah, no, we're going with the lab grown. That's dumb."
Well, there's no way to tell unless you have a $10,000 machine.
Right.
That's true.
That it's
Yeah.
lab grown. Because it's not a CZ. It's not a cubic zirconia or whatever.
Right. Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, because I had picked out a ring because I went on a sale because that's my true nature
He went to a pawn shop.
as a cheap guy.
Right.
But I didn't know what ring size, just like you said. And
Yeah.
I couldn't adjust it with a screwdriver. So I sent her with her friend as if they were going to pick rings out for their engagement. And all I wanted was,
Her friend to tell you what
yeah,
size.
what size it was. Instead, my wife puts aside a ring that she puts her name on and contact me with all this order information. And I'm looking at this ring versus one I picked out, and they look nothing alike. I stuck with my gut and went with the one that I chose, but there I was sweating for a little while, like, oh my God, she's not going to like it. Should have just gone with a hose clamp. Let her pick out what she wanted.
I'm at 10 years anniversary this year. I'm supposed to do something with that, right?
Congratulations.
Isn't that what's supposed to, that's this fall.
That's right. We went to Mexico.
Oh, you didn't do a diamond.
Get her a hose clamp.
And a hose clamp.
You should. You should.
I did. I mean, it does take like 6 genuine minutes of your time to handcraft this hose clamp with super glue. So it is. There is some thought into
Bedazzle
it.
it. It's like a pair of buckle jeans.
They fell apart immediately.
Was it stainless?
Yeah, I did shine it
new?
up a little bit.
Oh, he shined it up. It wasn't brand new.
It wasn't. It was brand new. It wasn't. I did go to O'Reilly's, or I think I had one sitting around that night. It was like I finished editing, and it was like 1 a.m. And I'm like, okay, well, tomorrow's the day. I gotta do this last little bit for the video, and so I went to the shelf and was like, oh, there's the cleanest one for a fuel line, and scuffed it a little bit with some steel wool and glued some Hobby Lobby things to it, and called it a day.
That's
'Cause there was no way in hell I was going to put a genuine ring on a key ring because it scratched the shit out of me going on.
So how many projects have you done? This is you've done this since 2016?
I'll tell you, we've got like 205 videos right now. So
Okay. So
probably
roughly
well over 100 cars.
okay.
Or
And how many
projects.
do you think you still own or in possession of?
I remember selling like 4. I don't. Some of them are cars we never own. We do them for people. Like
Okay.
we'll get a hold of the family. It's like, hey, Grand National was a good example. I tried to buy it for years, and I am very glad I did not because that thing was a turd. It was very rusted out. It was like a 200,000-mile Grand National. It was driven as a normal car.
Oof.
And I eventually convinced the family. I'm like, hey, look, here's the deal. I want to do a video on the car. I do not want to own the car. I will pay for all the parts to put your car back on the road and then give it back to you. And they're like, well, that sounds sketchy because why would anyone do that?
Right.
Which is usually the hurdle there. But then once we explain it, we show them a couple of videos. They're like, oh, okay, I get it now. And then sometimes we'll say yes, and we'll go fix someone else's car. And then at the end, I'll be like, all right, we've got $800 in parts into it. Here's your car. Goodbye. And then I never have to see that thing again because they're usually.
Do you get a thank you card though?
No, I just get the YouTube video. I just get to go edit.
Thank you, checks.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you, AdSense.
I love it. Huh. So out of all of them, is it like kids and it's hard to pick a favorite, or do you have favorite projects?
I have favorite cars that I like to drive for sure. One came from Belmont. It was T-boned in the late 70s, early 80s, and then sat by the river for a long time. It was flooded like 5 times. So it was junk. It was right after I got back from deployment. I bought it. It's like, this would be a good video. And we started working on it, and I was like, what am I doing? This thing's a piece of crap. Put it out back. Worked on something else next week. That was when it was still 1 a month. Worked on something else next month. And then later, we had me, Luke, and my fiance kind of all come up with the idea of let's build a Gambler 500 car, which is an event that takes place all over the nation where they go drive cars that are not supposed to be off-road, drive them off-road, and pick up trash along the way. So it's like an environmental thing. It's a good thing. And I thought, I want to do a car with aero race rims, which are made in Iowa, but they're like, back then, they were like $35 for a brand new rim. Because they're on all the stock cars, have those slots with the yellow ring around them.
yeah.
I always wanted to buy a set of those for a car, and I was like, and I want to put like 31-inch BFGs, which was like my favorite tires, a 31, 10.5, 15 KO2 BFG. Love them. And I was like, I want to put that on a car. What? And then I thought, I was like, it's got to be something with a frame, so it can hold together, even though it's rusty. It can't be unibody. It needs to be something common. Like a GM frame car, engines and stuff should be cheap, should be able to find rims for it and everything just fine. And it needs to be something pretty rough and rusty. And I thought about it for like 2 days. I'm like, that's a GM A-body, but where do I get a rusty GM A-body? And like 2 days later, I went, oh, wait, I've literally had one for 3 years. So we pulled the Le Mans down to Ames, and we ripped everything out. I went through, it was essentially a body on a frame, and I redid everything. I wired it by hand. It's got a Ford 9-inch rear end. It evolved from Gambler into like Rat Roddy Apocalypse street machine, like pavement pounder, pavement princess kind of car. And then it's even gone further to be our exhibition car for burnouts. But it's got a Ford 9-inch out of Ames from Quick Performance.
Yeah.
It's got 31-inch BFGs all the way around. QA1 suspension from Minnesota, the Aero race rims from Iowa, the B-locks. They actually make a B-lock, so then they actually balance out great. The car drives amazing. And then I bought a $750 big block Buick driveline and dropped it into this Pontiac, bolted in with a couple welds, and away we went. And we had about nothing in this car, and took it to a show in Des Moines and realized I had put a line lock on it so we could do burnouts. And they were out there ripping their little turbo forged bangers and stuff. I'm like, we finished. I built the car all throughout COVID, or up until COVID, and then kind of stopped on it for a while. And then someone called, Steve from This Week with Cars called me. He's like, hey, it's Tuesday, Friday night, there's a party. Bring something fun. I was like, I don't have anything fun. And we were at the Mexican restaurant in Nevada and went, how quick do you think we could finish that Le Mans? And it needed a whole bunch of stuff finished, and we finished it in like 4 days. Got it to run and drive for the first time in 30, 40 years. And then took it down there, and all these guys were doing burnouts. So I was like, I bet I could do a burnout. Threw the line lock, which shut the back brakes off, stood on it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it does great burnouts. And then it started rotating. I'm like, oh, it does donuts. So we went through pretty much half a set of brand new tires that night, mud tires. And the number one crank bearing.
Oh, jeez.
It started knocking, so we had to take it back. We threw new bearings in the motor, put it all together, put a roll cage in it, finished the car, and it's become our exhibition car. And it's done probably about 5,000, 6,000 miles now, and it's due for its 4th set of rear tires.
I was going to ask. I love
That one's my favorite.
Those tires aren't cheap either.
No, they were when I bought them. I paid like $650 for all 4 corners. Now it's $500 for the rears.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can't get a set of tires if they're even all terrains for under $1,000.
No, it's ridiculous. So now it's like a moral financial dilemma when I want to put on a show. It's like, this will be cool. People will love it, but it's going to cost $500. Then as soon as you open that big block up, you're like, yeah, it was worth it.
Yeah.
Gone. Smoke.
That's funny.
That's pretty good. So that one's your favorite.
That one's my favorite.
You got a second favorite?
That is a hard question. I have a lot of cars I really like. we had an AMC Eagle that came from Madrid, right over here, that I dailied for winter.
Madrid.
That car actually got more attention than the Le Mans that we built because I guess everyone knew what an AMC. I can go to a floral shop and I've won money on this before.
Yep.
I can go to Menards, anywhere, and someone will appear out of nowhere and be like, wow, I haven't seen one of those since the 80s with this AMC Eagle. And we did just recently pick up an AMC Gremlin X, and we drove it down from Minnesota to home. And same deal. I stopped at Sheffield because it overheated. We had 8 people walk up like, is that a Gremlin? Is that a Gremlin? Man, I haven't seen one of those in years. And they start telling us stories like, yeah, my brother had a blue one, and then my sister's cousin had a yellow one, and they love it. So AMCs are fun if they're the right ones.
That's funny. Let's see if I got audio with this.
Nope.
You recognize the sound of that?
That sounds like Oh, I know. I have not seen footage of this.
You haven't seen that?
Nope. And then I tore up his driveway and felt bad forever.
Oh, no. He loved it.
Okay,
just as
good.
much as everybody did. I liked it. Oop, mailbox. Right there. That was the mailbox.
Just missed it.
Oh, that was a great night.
So you guys have seen that car before.
As you were describing it, that's why I went and grabbed my phone, not to look like an
Yep.
asshole for not paying
Yeah,
attention
just
to you.
ignoring us. What a piece of
What
shit.
is that guy doing? He's got his phone out. That was a good night. So for listeners that didn't or weren't able to attend, that was Farm Progress Show last year, one of our after parties.
Which is every 2 or 4 years?
In Boone, every 2
2
years. Yep. So this year it's out in Decatur, Illinois.
Yeah.
So we got to wait another year before we can have
Or you
that
can come out
party?
Or you
there.
come out to Decatur.
We'll be out there in Illinois.
That's a drive.
It is a
It's
drive.
a perfect
I will
video.
have to-
You got to find a car that you can take
Oh,
there.
can I find I should get like a
sure.
tractor-powered car and drive it out.
My
something.
uncle's got an old orange Dodge, like a 70s or I couldn't even tell you. I'm not a Dodge expert of trucks, but I know he used to start it with a screwdriver, but now it's got like a tree freaking growing in it.
So I can already tell we're going to do a part 2. Because 1, we need to bring his fiance in.
Yep.
But 2, you're going to have a ton of awesome stories. So
Yeah.
I think I want to jump away from some of your car projects to what you've been doing in the agricultural side of things, on the farming side.
Yes.
Corey was telling me before
the part
you showed
that actually
up.
makes sense here.
Right. It's all makes sense. Everybody's just here to have a little bit of fun. So what have you started doing with farm equipment?
So to relate to this, hang on 1 second.
Yep.
Okay, there we go.
Beautiful.
Someone's going to have to walk to the fridge here.
I'll get ready to go up.
Immediately out of beer.
As a good host, I'm almost done with this one. I'll go get some more.
So Dave, who's not here, rest in peace. He's dead.
That's right.
Rest in, getting some good rest on vacation.
Yes, rest in V. Yeah.
Rest RIV Riviera.
Yeah.
Yep.
He sold us some land, and on that land was about 3.5, 4.5 tillable acres. And I saw that, and I went, I know exactly what to do with this. Because there's a lot of channels that do equipment revivals, the equipment version of what we do. And I thought, you know what? No one's done. Because the hardest part with any channel is you can make a channel, but everyone does the same thing. They're like, let me show you me working on my project. No one cares.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They name it something garage, which is actually, I learned this week, that's a literal channel name, is something garage. So that guy kind of wins.
Shoot, I got that written down here. I was actually going to use that.
That was pretty good.
The only thing in your garage is 6-inch and 8-inch pieces of 2x4s.
I'm going to use them someday.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
So they do that, and then they're like, well, here's me working on my project. Well, that's not. What you need to do is find an original take on something that exists or an original concept to draw people in. And I thought of this one. I'm like, okay, people do the equipment revivals, but no one, how do I kind of spin our thing into it where we get a car running and we drive it somewhere? Like, I want to go revive a tractor and use it to put corn in and find equipment. So one video prior to that, we had finally finished, the later finally happened for a truck. Like 3 years later, we finished it and fixed the brakes, put it on the road. This old farm truck. And then we used that to drive around and fix up a tractor, an old International H. And we brought that home. And then we used the farm truck in another episode to go just drive randomly just search around, didn't know where any of this was prior, just drive around, stop at neighbor's house, get a few miles around their house in random order so no one could figure out where we lived, and then found a disc. Excuse me. We found a disc. We found a 6-row old John Deere plateless planter. And then my uncle had a cultivator that we had to drive all the way up to Fort Dodge and haul it down on like rubber bands of tires. That man's not scared of tires. I cannot believe they still held air this year. But we then we got the tractor running. We hooked everything up to it. We plowed the field. This poor H I was running racing oil in it so it'd stay alive. Just the thickest stuff I could find. Just wung wide open, holding this 10-foot disc.
Well, I'm sitting there
about
going,
straight.
Just like he's talking about, a disc, a field cultivator, a 6-row planter. Yeah.
Oh, it was straight up 1965, as was the truck we were driving too. It was a 68. It was great. It was a lot of fun. And I'm out there. It was probably one of the most fun video series I make because it was something new to me. I didn't have to fix brakes that week, which is what we did forever. And it was a whole I grew up around farming, but I never farmed because we lived on an acreage. There was farms all around us. Dad, as I had said earlier, Dad was a maintenance man and a body man on cars, and Mom was a landscaper. So she grew up on a farm, did all this stuff all the time. I was clueless. So kind of figuring it out as we went. We tilled the soil under, disced it, cultivated it, and then we put corn in with this old planter that we found in a shed. And everywhere we went, we'd still kind of tie it back to cars for our normal viewers. Like we went in the shed, and there was probably the cleanest all original Trans Am in there, like smoking the Bandit Trans Am sitting under a tarp that ran and drove still next to this planter that we had no idea was there.
So you're keeping those notes for someday.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, that one runs and drives. That's, if anything,
but you'd still
off
own it.
camera, we might help him out someday.
Yeah. You would own it, right?
Absolutely that, yes. But so the corn grew all summer, and then come fall, same guy that had the Trans Am and the planter, we actually had him help us with his old 1964 or something. John Deere 55 corn special.
Yeah, I thought it was is it a 44 or 55? Either way,
One of those too.
Yep.
Old 3-row combine. We did an oil change on it because he uses it still. He's just a little hobby farmer like we are apparently.
Yeah.
And got it running, took all the corn out, put it into his old wagons, and then took it down, waited at the neighbor's elevator, and brought it back. And by the end of it, I knew the videos they'd take off slow, but they'd gain a lot of subscribers. And prior, anytime we went to like a local bar or something, we'd talk about it and people didn't know who we were. We did these farming episodes, and I can't go to an Iowa bar without someone being like, oh, you guys did that farming thing.
Yeah.
And it was a hit. And it was so much fun. But at the end, we took the corn, which was about 380 bushels, which isn't great if you do the math.
Yeah. I did the math, yep.
The front field was about 30 bushels an acre. And the back was about 130, so the back really pulled through.
Right.
And we sold it to the guy who helped us. Yeah. We sold it to the guy who helped us with the combine for $1,000 because he used to heat his house all winter last year.
Wow.
So he had helped us for a whole weekend.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? We came to a price that came out to be about $1,800 for all the corn, which is about half off already or for whatever it was. And he paid me the first 1,000, like 10s and 5s and 20s. And I went, you know what? Let's call it there. It's like, you helped us for an entire weekend. You dedicated 3 days to this. It was never about the corn. Right. For us, it was about the videos and the experience of doing it. So
yeah, and it would have been painful to stand there with another 10s, 5s, and 20s to get the extra $800.
Yep. And I went, you know what? We'll do you a favor there. You get to heat your house for the whole winter for $1,000. You helped us do the corn. I would have been screwed otherwise. So, but it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed getting out of my realm of comfort and doing something new.
So, do you have a crop planted this year?
We do. We have beans.
Okay. Same
we
equipment?
Have some beans. No, we this year we use the same planter. We use the same equipment to till and everything. But I went out and found a Farmall 460 for this year. Oh. Because that H worked its ass off to for the top inch of dirt. Yeah. And I wanted to break new ground because a lot of it was still there was some pointless waterways. It doesn't rain when I put a crop in, so I don't need that. And we tilled some other grass under to be actual dirt. So now we're up to about 4.5 acres instead of about 3.5. So
Yep.
and it's doing well. I did hire the spraying done by the neighbors this year. I cheated.
Pretty good idea.
So last year I pulled an old Haggy Series 2 out. It was all seized up in a shed. We made that run. And it was the most stressful video I've ever made in my life was operating that machine. 'Cause there's like 3 levers here, 2 here. You got a steering. You got 5 nozzles, switches for nozzles, and then you got your speed select and your water pump and all this. And in a big field, once you set it and you go for like 8 minutes, it'd be fine. But at 4 mile an hour in a 100-foot long field,
Yeah.
and it's set to get what 38, 36, and
30.
30 inch rows, and we had 30, and it's set. The tires are 34 on center, so you get an inch. So you're just running everything over the whole time too.
Right.
It was the worst thing I've ever done. In a hazmat suit, no cab, just getting covered in shit.
Yeah, probably a smart idea to get that sprayed.
His video putting in the beans this year, he had quite a bit of trouble with that tractor. Right?
We did.
Yeah, it took him a while.
It's still sitting in the backyard because I'm debating fixing it and giving it back or just giving it back.
Oh, that's great. This has been fun, and we've only scratched the surface.
A little bit, yeah.
You've always got something else you want to ask.
I want to know. He said he bought an acreage from Dave, and I remember that was when Dave was like, "This guy's making money. He just out of college." Like, do you pay for that acreage with YouTube?
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
That's land buying money.
Land.
So what?
YouTube and a bank.
Well, and a bank.
And bank. There you
So
go.
what's the?
How did that work? How did
Yeah.
you get a bank to
There
take
you go.
YouTube income as verifiable revenue?
It's not. Well, our problem was,
I'm not gonna lie. If you would have came to me,
No,
I'd have been
yeah.
like, "What?"
yeah, bullshit, go away.
Right.
Which is usually the answer we get.
Yeah.
But I do have a good banker up in Clarion that's like, he knows what we do and he understands it does work. And we were able to put enough down, and the old house sold for more than we paid because it was bought it. We closed the weekend COVID hit in 2020.
Yeah.
So 2 years later, it's now worth a bit more than what we paid.
Right.
So that helped. But our biggest problem, even on the old house, was we were writing everything off to show no income every year, as one does.
Yep.
So we had to walk in and be like, "Hey, I'd like to buy a house." Well, you make $18, so thankfully I had some backlog from the Army for the first house, and then we had the first house for the second house. But
Right.
It's always been a challenge.
Yep.
Yeah.
See, you just got to be a good banker, Tanner.
I just gotta be good. Gotta work on that.
Can't suck.
That's right.
Quit sucking. What about, okay, so you obviously make money from YouTube for the ads that they place.
Yes, the
Right.
ads you watch, the ones you skip,
Yep.
that is. And then there are, I'm guessing where this question is going, the ads like you guys read out in the beginning.
Right,
here.
sponsorships.
Yes.
Do you
Yep.
have those?
We do. We have baked in integrations, or ours are more of a cut, like just everything's like, there's Kevin standing in a shop talking about Raycon earbuds or something else.
Yep.
Hello Fresh.
I mean, you
like
said
that.
O'Reilly's earlier.
We, ironically, the ones that do matter don't sponsor us. No, it's the stuff that I have to actually, that shit I still have to pay for.
Yeah.
O'Reilly's.
Yeah. Yes.
Hey, if you say it one more time, we can send them a bill.
O'Reilly's.
O'Reilly's.
It's like then they just show up.
O'Reilly's. Auto parts.
Send me a check.
I love it. So what's that like trying to solicit those, or do they kind of approach you now because of the size?
They do approach us. There's, I'm sure, similar to what you guys do. You have a company you work with. Ours is.
we do not.
Is it back and forth? You guys work directly.
We're
with-
direct.
So this is where I get to ask questions. This is what I love doing.
Yeah, fire
is
away.
working with other influencers in the.
Oof, use that term
Influ-
lightly in this room.
Sorry, the other. What's the word?
No, we're fine.
Influencer economy, I think, is what they.
We still
Creator.
Creator economy.
There we go.
Yeah. Samir and whatever's. Yep.
Yeah.
But it's fun interacting with other YouTubers because none of us have any idea what we're doing.
No.
And we're all trying. Like, I just did a video with Matt from Demolition Ranch, not Donut Media. I've worked with them before, but Donut Operator and Brandon Herrera were all there. So we, like, had a beer and talked, and we're all just clueless.
Yeah.
But they're bigger and clueless. So.
Isn't that fascinating?
It's changing constantly.
It's the same way. We're top 1% of all podcasts,
Yeah.
and we just do what our listeners ask
We
us
just,
to do.
yeah, like, well, this is what I would listen to. This
Yeah.
is what I would watch. That's how I still make videos. If I watch through it, I'm like, I'm bored. I take that piece out.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly nice to sell longer campaigns because you don't have to sell them as often. But those are harder to sell because the packages usually cost more.
Yep. And with the economy, the literal economy doing what it's doing
Yeah.
right now, I lost, I think, 3 this year already.
Yeah.
2 or 3. I was like, that hurt.
Right.
Yeah,
And
when-
it's tough because not everybody can participate. You
Yeah.
want to help the local contractor out. You want to help a
it's like,
smaller
hey, look,
mid-size. You're like, but
You can come into this position, but this is what I'm booting out of that position, and it's 3 times what you're willing to pay.
Yeah.
So they come up and they're like, hey, I want to do this. I'm like, here's the deal.
And for them, too, it's a business decision because I
Yeah.
sometimes argue in their stance,
If it's not an e-commerce brand, it doesn't really make sense.
why would you want to shell that much out in one concentrated effort when
For
you
the
could,
6 people in town
where you
that
could
might
spread
listen.
it out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if you sell something online to everyone
Sure.
that's listening online, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's the guys that are like, hey, will you say something about my construction business? I'm like, doesn't make any sense. You're wasting your money there. What I will do is maybe if I drive past your truck sometime, be like, hey, check these guys out, by the way. Because that takes 0% of my time. It takes me 2 seconds, 8 seconds of screen time, and it might get them 2 sales. And that's just
Right.
something I can do out of the goodness of myself.
That's the interesting part in ag. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
But you do one sale, and you could pay for our entire campaign.
Yeah.
Just because of the sheer
The
cost.
volume.
Well, how do you
Yes.
decide what your worth is? Is it just a Google of what my KPM is, or or
You
what
ask for
sounds
so
good?
much, and they say no, and I guess
Yeah,
that's like I know people that make in ag. I have a friend that does the same integrations with the same company, and he makes twice what I do for half the view guarantee. It's people when he says something, people listen more, so he's more valuable to them. I believe he doesn't do as many ads either, but in the end, I do 8 to his 3, and it's the same amount. So
Right.
but yeah, it's interesting how much of a reach you may have, and then
Well, it's just like Jim here. Maybe today in this episode, thanks to James, we're going to throw 8 in
There you
compared to the regular 3.
Well, we limit ourselves. We tell people no because so James, we will only have 3 ads on our show. We could have a lot more, which makes our ads more expensive.
YouTube is the same way. Those mid-roll ads, if you hit place automatically, it'll put like 18 in. And I go, nope,
Really?
nope, and I leave about 11.
You hear that, Emma?
Yeah, so I am helping you people. It could be worse.
It's tough. It's a tough job.
But for us, who'd have thought 3 years ago that when Corey joined, we'd even be having to consider this?
Yeah.
And then for you, back in 2016,
There's
who'd have
no
thought?
rule book. There's no school for it. There's no light.
That's what I
We're
love
all
about
just
It's the Wild West.
floating around, wandering cluelessly,
Name your price, provide value.
1 week at a time.
Yep. I think Whitaker should sponsor you. If he sells one farm,
Nailed it.
like if something like, hey, you
could
got
get-
someone to sell your farm?
You get my
Whitaker doesn't
10% back on that house.
Whitaker doesn't even sponsor us.
That's true.
That guy sucks. Let's burn this
we'll
place
just-
down.
We're in his building right now. He's on
Well, like,
vacation.
He does sponsor that part, I guess.
We're in Studio 69. No, I can pay rent to be here.
Oh, never mind. Yeah, he does suck.
Yeah. No, he's. We do miss him a little bit.
What about, is there something that you haven't revived yet that you would like to? Airplane?
Ooh, see, that's the thing. That would be the ultimate thing. But being a former aircraft mechanic, I know that is a big no-no.
Yeah.
That it, like, not only is that like you're going to die,
Yeah.
period, but if you somehow live,
You could be like the Wright brothers. It only has to get off the ground for like 7 seconds.
if you do that, the FAA has your ass.
Even
Whistle.
for like 7 seconds.
Oh yeah,
it's like-
Whistling Diesel picked up the tail, and they about ended him.
Really?
Yep. You cannot unlicensed fly an airplane.
Huh.
The FAA is like the DNR of the sky.
Wow. Good to know.
Yeah, so don't. Yeah, if you have an airplane, don't fly it in the backyard, I guess is what the
Right.
moral here. But I don't think that's a problem for any of
So
us.
if it's not an airplane, then what is it? Something you want to do that you haven't been able to do yet?
Oh, I actually do know the answer. In Michigan.
It's in
Even I know exactly where it is. I have the contacts. They just won't say yes. There is.
Yet.
So I've
Our listeners are ready to help.
hit up the Air Zoo in Kalamazoo. Also a good place to go see. See, that's the thing.
Yeah,
I'll help you out
yeah.
there.
Yep.
You know? The Air Zoo in Kalamazoo, they have a TikTok account, and they have posted pictures of their SR-71 start cart,
Okay.
which has 2 Buick 401 nail heads.
Okay.
Really?
And I am a nailhead fan because one of my first old car that I ever drove, which I still have. I've been waiting on the heads for California for 4 years, but that's another story. But I had a 401 nailhead, and I loved it. And this thing has 2 of them, and they burned up most of the nailheads in the country because this thing's got 2 big old 401 nailheads, and they hook it mechanically to the bottom of the SR-71, and it spools the motors up with these nailheads just wide open. And if they don't pull them off in time, it overrides the motors, and it's just parts. It's a yard sale. But they have one, and it's all still together. And I've always wanted to make an SR-71 Blackbird start car run again. That's my dream revival.
Well,
And they won't say yes because it has to do with the Air Force part of it. So you have to get like government approval to play with this thing. And that will never happen.
But if
I
our
find a
listeners,
privately owned one.
I was going to say, but if our listeners know somebody who
Privately
has one,
owns one.
you heard him. Do your thing.
freaking love
Another
this.
one. This one will actually be really easy. This is more aligned. Someone probably has one.
John Deere 4020.
Everyone has one of those. They were irrigator motors in Kansas and around this area where they irrigate down there. The GM Big Six, twice. The GM they made a V12 of 2 Big Sixes bolted together and ran them on irrigator motors. And the name is escaping me right now. But it was a V12 made out of 2 motors. And they ran them on irrigators and pumps. They were pump motors. So they're still floating around. I think one of those on a stand would be a lot of fun to have.
I wish I knew motors better.
I'm gonna Google it because the name is worth saying.
Really, the
It'll
only
catch
thing I
someone.
know is that I had a 1991 or 2 Buick LeSabre. It had a 3800,
Twin Six. It's the Twin Six.
and they still had that motor in like the O2 Impalas and shit like that. Like that motor was that
Killer
3800
motors.
was. You get like 30 miles per gallon.
Immortal.
You know, yeah.
Do you want another? I got like 6 in my woods from that
Really?
race we did.
I don't know why they ever killed them. Those were the best motors.
I sent my brother-in-law a text message. We may have a project for you, but you would be helping us out if you removed it.
Just made it go away.
Just made it go away.
I don't think I've ever had a bush light and not left with a video. Everyone's like, why do you go out and drink beer so much? Because I need a video next week. It works every damn time.
Hey,
Right.
Gabby, can you grab some beers out of the fridge?
We need more videos.
We need more videos.
What about have you ever done anything like a semi or anything like that?
No, Mook,
be kinda cool.
Mook wants a semi, so that is another one to do.
An old cab over. or
There's
something like that.
so
Hey,
much.
you got to haul
to
your
do.
grain.
3.
Yes,
There.
grain truck is the answer there. The hard part's finding brakes within a week,
Yeah.
or find it and order every. Have $1,000 of weird.
Yeah,
Obscure
you might have to
brakes
find it and then
3 of
order
them don't
parts and
fit.
do it like in a month or so. But Vanderhags would be your place to go for all your junkyard parts there.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
job.
gentlemen.
Thank you. So, brother-in-law, father-in-law have a cat motor that was hooked up to be a generator on an acreage, and it is huge. Like there's a shed built around it, and I don't know what it is.
Was this like
If it's huge, it's got
50s,
like
60s?
C15s like they're. But is it old?
Yeah, old. Yeah.
3406.
Like it used to
or-
run at 600 RPM.
So is this like big single cylinder stuff? Like hit and miss?
No, I don't think so. So
I got
What-
I got a
give
John
us an
Deere hit and
era.
miss motor.
I'll get
can
you.
going.
Hell, that's
It's locked
another one.
up.
I've
It's
always wanted
locked
to do a
up.
hit and miss survival.
I've got one.
All right.
That one's just a miss.
Let's close this show up so I can call my father-in-law. We'll get some details on this big
Maybe
motor.
you got to call him on the phone for the content.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
And then it's
You never know what he's
it's
gonna say.
elusive and it leads into the next thing. You got to
could
check
do-
it out on Junkyard Digs.
Remember, we had guys like James that reached out to us and said that they didn't understand the after show. Maybe we should do an after show here, and it's the phone call with my father.
There you go.
There you go.
We should do that. Okay, so let's wrap up. We'll give you the wrap up question for part 1 because we
Okay.
know there's going to be a part 2.
Yeah, and we might need to take a pee break too.
That's
I
fine.
mean, it's air conditioned here. I haven't had that for 3 weeks, so you might have a part 14. I might just be a new member.
I love this. I love this. Okay, so the question we ask everybody, at least while we're interviewing you, is
I didn't do it.
if you could go back to yourself at age 18, stand there and give yourself an advice, what would you go back and tell yourself? Whether you're going to listen or not, because some of us were pretty hard-headed at age 18.
I was gonna say, what was I doing when I was 18 years old? What year would have that been?
What would you go back
What was 8 years ago?
and tell yourself? 2015?
Oh, I was graduating high school. That's right.
Yeah. 2015.
I don't even know because it all changes so much, and I was in the right place, the right time for YouTube. Had I honestly in that delicate first year and a half done anything different, I think I would have ruined it. So
I think it's perfectly fine to say. I just be like,
I
keep doing what
probably
you're
would
doing,
have
buddy.
said
Have
shit.
have
You're
faith in
great.
yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Or been like, hey, girls don't like you, but there will be one time.
Yeah.
That,
One
you know
time.
Stick
what?
it out, buddy.
That's not a bad piece of advice.
Or maybe drink less beer. I don't know.
Oh, that's good.
But that's videos, so that's
Right.
just less content.
This has been a pleasure, and I'm actually kind of excited we did it without Dave because we got to
Yeah, that guy sucks.
we got to organically drive down this
F
path.
off, Dave.
He already knows all this, so he'll just
That's
come
what
in.
I mean. He'll come back in part 2. We
You guys are up to speed now.
can really dive deep.
Yeah.
I love this. I had a lot of fun. Did you have fun, Corey?
I loved it. Good time. It's
So-
always great in
If,
person.
if they want to follow you, how do they go find your stuff?
I don't know. You guys know better than me, apparently.
Junkyard
I didn't know I had that
_digs.
many followers. That's
Junkyard_digs.
on Instagram, Junkyard Digs on YouTube, Junkyard Digs _digs as well on TikTok. I don't do a lot on that. TikTok is hilarious because
You
it's
got
just
100-some thousand followers.
it's
on it.
literally my old Snapchats. And I've done it ironically, this is stuff I just happened to save.
Sure.
And it's worked.
Hey, I love it. I love it. Corey, what do you say to the listeners?
Crack a bush light. You deserve it.